Hello folks, you're all very welcome. This is the manual installation video for IXP Manager version 6. Um, I suppose one thing to emphasize is that we always recommend that you install IXP Manager using the automated script. It is definitely the easiest way to do it. And a lot of what we do here will be following that process. We're just going to do it manually. So when I talk about the automated installation script, what I mean is when you go to docs.ixpmanager.org and you go to installation, there is an automated script which you install a bare bones version of Ubuntu, and you pull the script off of GitHub and you just run it, and it will automatically install everything required for XP Manager. If you need to do the manual method, that's absolutely fine. We know that everyone has different requirements and operating systems and stuff like that. You're certainly free to, and that's why we create this video. As I record this video, I'm doing it before we've put IXP Manager version 6 live and before we've updated all the relevant documentation and collateral. So my documentation for IXP Manager manual installation is local here. It will be, once we go live, it will be right here. This page currently relates to IXP Manager version 5, so it's not relevant to IXP Manager version 6. So the documentation that will be replaced with is what I'm drafting up here, and it's what we're going to follow. The other thing is there's a separate video to this, which is the video for the automated installation procedure. In that video, I go through the whole process of building a Ubuntu virtual machine, talking about memory requirements, hard disk setup, and so on. Right to the point where we have a fresh Ubuntu installation. So please look at that video first to get you to the point where you have a Ubuntu installation that's ready to rock. So on my system, that Ubuntu installation, let me just close this one off. I'm going to power off. That's the video for the automated install. I'm just going to, this is the one. So at the point in time where I had that fully installed to a blank version of Ubuntu, I cloned it so I could use this version for the manual installation, because that point of the procedures are identical. So again, refer to the automated video to get to this point in time, and we'll continue here using the manual method. So just let this boot up. Going to log into it. I just want to get the IP address of my local network here. Okay. So now that I have that, let me go to my local shell. Go into root. So if I look at serve, you can see it's empty, right? So there's no IXP Manager installation here at all. The first thing you would do on any fresh operating system is just make sure that you're fully up to date on all the packages. So I'm just going to let that run there. And while that's running, I'm going to go here and have a little look at our documentation. So this page updated July 2021, which is what we are here now, for the release of IXP Manager version 6 on Ubuntu 20.04. Okay, and the video I'm referencing is the one I'm actually recording here. So IXP Manager tries to stay current in terms of technology, and that is very important to us. So particularly what that means for the end user is that we try and stay current in terms of the version of PHP that we use. PHP has become a rapidly evolving language, and there's a release every year. The PHP that ships with Ubuntu 20.04 is 7.4. That won't work on IXP Manager version 6. We have to install IXP Manager. We have to install PHP version 8. And I'm going to walk you through that process here as well once this completes. So the current requirements for the web application is any Unix-based operating system. Okay, but the documentation that I'm doing relates to Ubuntu LTS. MySQL version 8 is now a hard requirement. In historical versions, we used to allow MariaDB as well, but they've diverged sufficiently in time that it's just a headache to try and support both of them. And it is far too big a headache to try and support Postgres and other, even using database wrapper layers. It just adds to the development load to make it database agnostic. So MySQL version 8, a web server, Apache, Nginx, Light HTTP, whatever you're comfortable with. In this, we're going to go with Apache. So again, PHP version 8 or greater, and Memcache. So we also need Git, and we'll see that in a while. So what else do I say here? So just some stuff about potential combinations of operating systems and various versions, so that we are strongly recommending Ubuntu LTS 2004 and the automated installer, just to make everyone's life easy. So, okay, so we've installed here. So one of the things I did say is that we do require PHP version 8. And if I do apt install PHP 8.0, doesn't exist. And that's fine. We expect that because, as I told you, it's PHP version 7.4 that comes with Ubuntu. So to get around that, what we use is we use Andre Suri's Ubuntu personal package archive. So the URL for that is this. So for years, Andre has been running this PPA, which allows you to install different versions of PHP than the default one that comes with the version of Ubuntu you're running. I imagine that this is very time consuming for Andre, so please, absolutely, at the very least, buy him a pint or a cup of coffee or something like that. So to use his, we have to install this package, which is just a Ubuntu package already installed. That's great. And then we add Andre's PHP repository. So we just have to add here. And just as a demonstration, then that will work perfectly. Okay. So what we're going to do is this command line here actually comes straight out of the automated installer. So we're going to just save ourselves the hassle and install it. If you're not installing on Ubuntu, you'll have to find the equivalent of these packages for your own operating system. Now, I'm going to let this run, and then I'm going to come back and just go through some of them and talk about why they're here. So we let that off. Okay. So obviously we install Apache for the web server, PHP, because that's what IXP Manager requires to run. There's various PHP packages we install, like ORD is obviously for graphing and stuff like that. SNMP is for access to the switches. We install libapache 2 mod PHP 8, and that is the Apache's module to run PHP applications. We install MySQL. Let's see what else we install. BGPQ3, so that's so that we can unwrap AS sets and AS numbers to find root objects when we're generating root server configuration. What else is relevant here? We have very little Perl left, but there's still a tiny bit, so we just installed a few Perl tools. ORD tool as well we install, an MRTG for graphing. The installer or the manual installer won't get your graphing working. That's in different video tutorials. So that looks like the bones of it. So we let that run away there. Yeah, so if you're going to use a different platform, you're going to need to replicate the above as appropriate for your chosen platform. So that's flying through the installation process there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have to get the IXP Manager source. So we'll go through that in 1 second. If you're watching the video, obviously you can just skip a couple of 5 seconds ahead here while we wait in this. It looks like it's there now anyway. Great. So we always recommend you install IXP Manager /serve IXP Manager. If you do that, that will match all of the documentation and tutorials that we have. So we're going to go into that directory, and now we're going to, is Git installed? It is. So we're going to clone the IXP Manager repository. Okay. Then we're going to go into it. A lot of content there at this stage, a lot of code. We're not, probably should update these instructions to do a shallow clone so that we're not getting all the history, but so we're going to git checkout release v6. So this is something to watch, right? So when we do releases, we do tags. So normally what we would tell you to do is if you're installing a particular version, is check out, for example, that would be the tag that we release IXP Manager on. And that's that's where the upgrade documentation goes, as well as you check out a particular tag. So the reason that I'm saying check out release v6 here is for the documentation. Release v6 will always have the code to the latest tag that we've released under the v6 train, plus any stuff that we think is production safe beyond that point. The only thing to watch out for is there may be stuff between the latest release and what release v6 has that might require some kind of manual work as part of a standard release upgrade procedure. Usually it's pretty safe, but just bear that in mind, and it might be best to see what the latest release is and do a git checkout v6.x.y based on that. Of course, you've taken the manual installation route, so these are the things that you're going to have to bear in mind. So just do a quick change on here. www-data is the web user under Ubuntu. So initial setup and dependencies. Okay. Right. I'm going to have to update documentation here a little bit. So the problem with Composer is, I don't know if this will work. Yeah. Composer version 1.10. The problem here is that the Composer that comes with Ubuntu 20.04 is version 1.x. We require Composer version 2. So we're going to have to install that, and I'll update the documentation afterwards. So there's a website, Get Composer, which is the dependency manager of PHP, and we're going to want to download it. So it provides you some copy and paste instructions here. You should, of course, always be satisfied that you're happy to copy instructions off a website and have that website execute the scripted download. So make sure you're comfortable with that as an obvious security precaution. I am happy with this. So what this has done is it's installed composer.var here. var is a PHP archive, PHP application archive. So it's installed that here in my local IXP Manager repository. So what I'm going to do is change this to PHP composer.var. So it uses the local one rather than the one that's installed. Don't install any development libraries and only install distribution packages. So continue as root, yes. So it's downloading all the required additional libraries in the PHP ecosystem that IXP Manager requires to run. Now we ship with a sample example configuration file. So I'm just going to copy that over. And then the last thing I have to do is, if I look at that .m file right now, install Joe. Joe is my editor of preference. And there's two things I do. I install Joe, and then I disable the backups that Joe creates by default, which leaves all of these tilde files lying around. So let me just get rid of that. Okay. So now go back to my .m file. What you'll see is my app key is empty. So Laravel requires an app key it can use for encryption and things like that, symmetric encryption and things like that. So now that's set. And that command will set it to a cryptographically secure version. Now I have to set up my database. Okay. So I'm giving some examples here. Let's have a look. So mysql-u root. So create database IXP Manager with the UTF-8 collation by default. Now I need to pick a password. So create user IXP Manager localhost identified, but I'm just going to use the password IXP Manager here for our manual installation. Grant all privileges and super on and flush privilege. It's all fine. Great. So that's my database user created. And now I need to edit my configuration file, put those details in there. So you can see I have some blank stuff here. So let's just take that out, paste in the new stuff. And then so if I do a PHP artisan, which is the Laravel command line runner that we use, if I just run it on its own, it's going to give me a list of all the available commands. The one I want to see is migrate status. So what's the current status of migrations? Migration table not found. So I haven't created any database, run any migrations. If I now migrate, yes, I really want to. So what it's doing is creating all of the schema in the database that is necessary for IXP Manager to work. If I go back and look at status, I see I've ran a bunch of these migrations. This is absolutely fine. The database schema at end of V5 will have sorted out everything prior to that. In fact, let me just do a... Okay, run it twice. I need to upgrade the documentation on that. I'm not sure how that came to pass, but you can see what I did there. I ran it twice. Everything is fine. Let's have a quick look at the database. So show tables. So everything I need is in there. That looks good. Okay. Let's see, where was I? So we run it twice for completeness. Some older scripts still rely on MySQL view tables, so we can create those with this. Okay, so we're in as root here, so that's fine. I can just run this. It should just work. Great. So now we're on to our configuration. So what you want to do is edit this and review and set all parameters. We'll just take a quick look at it. I'm not going to go into detail. You're going to want your app URL set, and that's going to be really important because of, you know, when the website is referencing JavaScript or CSS assets and stuff like that, or when it's emailing links, it's going to use this parameter. So at INEX, for example, that would be inix.ie/IXP, because we install IXP Manager under a subdirectory. A lot of people might have something like that, for example. In the case of our demo version here, we're going to have 192.168.140.134. Our time zone. So what I'm suggesting here is that you're going to get these from here. And for me in Dublin, I'm going to have this guy here. So set your time zone appropriately. App debug at the top of the screen there is false, and that's really important. Don't ever set that to true in a production environment. Now you've got all of your identity. So you know your IXP name and where it's located and things like that. And then we get on to other configuration elements, and you can step through all of this. And I'm not going to go through it now, because when you've completed your installation, you're going to be referred to the post-install steps. And that's going to walk you through getting all of those things configured. So that's not going to be part of the installation itself. The main thing with the configuration and the installation is the application key and the database. So now we're going to create some initial database objects. So one thing that we don't have, unfortunately, is a automated installer. So that when you get to this point, that you can go to Web UI and do a lot of this stuff yourself. So you've chosen the manual installation, and you're just going to have to bear with it and install it manually using this stuff. I'm just having a look at one or two things here. So I can see I've referenced a lot of stuff. So one thing that I'm missing in this is, so you got your username, you got user, you got your creating some passwords here. Your password is blah. Okay. The other thing I want to do is I want to do a cd IXP root, and I want to source .env. So the .env file is just key value pairs, and you can actually read that into your bash environment, no problem. And that will allow you to reference those variables. So for example, in my MySQL Manager, so here I'm going to change this to db username, which I'm reading out of that sourced out of that M file. So db password, and db is a db name. Let's just check. So I'm reading db username, db username, password, database, okay, and host. So I'm reading those straight out of that file. So let's, for completeness, include db host, password, and db database. So let's make it easy by using it like that. Database. Okay. Let's see if this works. So what I've read out of it at this point is, for example, I'm reading, for example, your IXP name, short name, peering email, and so on out of your .m file. So it's important you've set up your end file for your identity at this point. And then hopefully, let's just see what happens. Hopefully I can copy this block of code, drop it in. So there's one or two issues here. So there's my password. We'll see if this all works. I've created that randomly here. And let's see if we can copy and paste this in. What's this at row 1? So what's this at row 1? So it looks like we crapped out pretty early in it. Line 12. What's this is what I missed. So IXP ASN. These actually, you know, these parameters that we have here, they don't actually come out. This block of code is copied straight out of the automated installer, and in the automated installer we prompt the user for these bits of information. So they're not necessarily coming out of the .m file. So what we might do is some city IX. What else do we have to do here? Short name, ASN, peering email. What else do we have? Knock phone, knock email, IXP www. Billing contact name. Not sure what we got for name earlier, but we set that in here. That probably went in blank. IXP name we have. Okay. So I know where I crapped out. So let me just go into my MySQL-root. You can skip this if you like, but some people might like to see various bits and pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to truncate infrastructure. Phone key. So I'm going to do a delete star from infrastructure. Sorry, let's just delete from infrastructure. I don't need a star on that. Delete from I'm just going to reset my database, just get rid of those things. And I think cost should be empty. Grand. So that's where we crashed out. So what I need to do is I've got no variables here. I have IXP name there. I'm going to set that here. No other variables. I have name, which I have above. I've got no other variables. I've gone through all of these ones. Then what I need is I've got a name. I need a username. I need I've got a hash password, which I've set above. I need a user email and name, user email. Okay, looks like that's all I need. So name, Joe, some city IX, short name, some city IX, ASN 65501. Peering email is peering@example.com. Knock phone is 1234678. Knock at example.com. HTTP put this in quotes, http www.example.com, username jblogs, user email jblogs@example.com. So hopefully that will work out for us. So let's do all of this now again. Great, we seem to have an admin password here as well. Let's now hope that this works. Yes, that worked fine. Now we need to see the database. So we just run these commands. This just sets up some entries in some of those tables. The web server needs write access to some directories. That's fine. Set up Apache. Okay. So it's giving us a virtual host. So what I'm going to do is Joe/etc Apache sites enabled, the default site. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually replacing everything. That's fine. So I need to just copy all of this. In fact, it's what I'm actually doing is replacing everything. So I've actually provided the full lot. The one thing you want to do though is set your IXP root directory, srv IXP Manager, and srv IXP Manager. Anything else should be okay, I hope. We'll find out anyway. Apache 2 CTL test rewrite engine. So A2 en mod. So we need to enable the rewrite engine. What else are we failing on? Okay, looks like default root directory. I think the issue might be these backslashes. Let's see. Yeah, that looks okay. System control restart Apache. Great. I had that there, and service restart. Okay, let's see if that actually works. 192.168.140.134. There we go. What username did I give myself? Username was jblogs, and the password it generated was this guy here, jblogs. Super. I want to just do one thing. Sometimes the password that gets generated can be mangled. And in that case, what we have is user set password. So you reset a user's password on the command line. -help will give you help. So it's saying, right, search. Any MySQL search string is fine. Let's just do a pure wildcard. Okay, so it's found one user. It's saying enter the ID to change the password for. So I'm going to change it for user one password. So return to have one generated. So it's created a password for me. So if I log out here, oops, sorry, jblogs, paste in that new password, and excellent, here I go. So the MySQL blob we stuck in was to create some very basic entities that we need, like an infrastructure, and also the IX user, which is a required user internally, because a lot of the core interfaces and stuff get linked to your IX user. That is in the main the manual installation complete. There are a few other hints and tips here which you should definitely look at. But the main thing to do at this point is the same as you would do in the automated installation, which is you would go to the documentation and post-install steps. And also please note that in our series of tutorial videos, we have those install steps. We have a video covering all of those as well. Okay, so I hope, despite me going back and forth into MySQL and running into issues, I've left all that in on purpose, because doing a manual installation isn't simple and you will run into issues. I just wanted to see you, for you to see how I handle those live. So I hope that was useful. Please reach out to us on Twitter at IXP Manager, and you can hit myself up at Barrio79. and good luck with your next steps.